These are the 3 top self-sabotages that I've seen after working with people to help them lose weight and keep it off for the last 16 years. And I've worked with thousands of clients. And this is what I find that people do when they are failing. Number 1, they focus on what they're afraid of instead of on what they want. You focus on what you're afraid of instead of what you want. Your mind is like a GPS system, and whatever you put into it, the way that you think, what you say to yourself, what you picture and imagine in your mind, those become the coordinates. And then your mind takes you in that direction. One of the big problems with dieting is that people expect to fail right from the start because that's what's always happened. If you expect to fail, you're gonna, because your GPS is going to take you there. So we have to start focusing on what's going to happen and how you want things to go instead of what you're afraid of. You know, I'd have people come in here, and I used to say, how's it going? You know, and people would start to tell me all the things that weren't working, all the things that weren't going right. It must not have been working for them. For some reason, the system isn't right for them. And they would go into their fear and their self-pity or blame and all these other things. When in reality, what was happening is that they weren't focusing on what they wanted. They were finding excuses for why it wouldn't work out for them. So what we have to do is redirect our attention onto the outcome that we want. If you are coming to me as an athlete, and I work with lots of athletes, and you come to me and you're like, I'm a basketball player, and I can't make free throws. So can you help me? I would say, yes, we're going to imagine and have you visualize shooting free throws and the ball going in the hoop, because that makes sense. If you want the ball to go in the hoop, you would imagine the ball going in the hoop, right? It makes total common sense. You would not sit there and visualize missing. But when athletes choke, that's exactly what they do. They get to the free throw line, and then they say, just don't miss, just don't miss, just don't miss. And when you're telling yourself don't miss, all your mind hears is miss. Your mind doesn't hear don't. Sabotage number 2 is when we use ineffective language. Your mind doesn't understand don't or try or not. It doesn't think in the negative. If I tell you not to think of a purple elephant, what comes to mind? A purple elephant. If I tell my 3-year-old, don't throw that toy, what do you think he's going to do? Throw the toy. So you have to speak in the way that you want. I was at the pool the other day, and the kids were running around the pool, and the lifeguard kept saying, don't run, don't run, don't run. And the kids kept running. It's like they didn't even hear her. I walked up to her and I said, you got to tell the kids what you want. Tell them, walk slowly. So she said, walk slowly. And guess what? The kids slowed down. Now they walked quickly because they're kids. They're going to test boundaries. But they started walking, not running, because their brain heard walk. Something used to scare me. It's a little off the subject, but I used to drive down the highway and I'd see these big billboards all the way down the highway that would say, don't drink and drive. Oh, that's the worst thing you could do, right? It made me want to crack open something. Instead, you have to change it. Somebody communicated to whoever's in charge of the billboards, and they said, you got to change that message. And then I saw, about a year later, the billboard message had changed. And it now said, stay sober, which is exactly what you want. So you got to say it the way you mean it. So when you are talking to yourself about eating healthy, you would not tell yourself, don't eat the cookies, don't eat the cookies. Because just imagine your brain doesn't hear don't. Don't eat the cookies. What's your brain hearing? Eat the cookies. So every time you tell yourself don't do something, you're going to want to. So if you want to eat more veggies, just tell yourself don't eat those veggies, and you'll be eating them all night long. Okay, so we want to make sure that you are focusing on what you want and you're using language that makes you want to do it. So I had a client named Virginia. And Virginia was one of my favorite clients, and she was from the South, and she came in and she said, Tim, I just can't stop eating my Southern cooking. My fried chicken with my crispy recipe and my gravy and my dumplings. Now, I was teaching a class, and as she's saying this, everybody's mouth is watering. And I'm like, uh-oh, so I'm going to have a mutiny on my hands. So I said, Virginia, describe salads and veggies and fruits. And she goes, salads, vegetables, fruits, ugh. Like it was the most boring thing on the planet. No wonder she didn't want to eat that healthier stuff. She was making it so boring in her mind, and she was making the Southern cooking like it was godly. she was using self-hypnosis and hypnotic language to make herself go to the food that was making her tired and fat and frustrated. So I taught her to sell herself on what she wants. So I said, Virginia, I want you to just switch the strategy. Start talking about the healthier food in this new way. And so she went away. She came back 2 weeks later, and she comes in smiling. I said, so what happened? And she said, I've lost 7 pounds. And I said, how'd you do that? And she says, well, I haven't had any fried chicken, and I don't care at all about it. And I said, well, what are you doing? And she says, well, let me tell you. Now I have these awesome garden salads and just heaping with baby greens. And I've got these yellow peppers and green peppers from my garden. And I put a little of this and that, and I have my tall glass of water with my big piece of lemon. And you can hear the ice cubes clinking against the glass. And it makes me feel like I'm on a Hawaiian vacation. And she started describing these healthier foods, which made her want to eat them. So you begin to describe, if you're describing chocolate cake like it's the best thing on the planet, you are really missing out, because it isn't, okay? You eat that and then you feel sick afterwards. And that cake has never told you I love you, it's never given you a hug, and it's never made you feel proud of yourself afterwards. It's usually done the opposite. So we've got to communicate with ourselves in a whole different way that's going to help you feel strong and confident and secure. Sabotage number 3 is when we associate pleasure and pain in the wrong way. When we associate pleasure to the things that are keeping us stuck and pain to the things that would improve our lives. And I've just given you some examples. When we associate pleasure to food and pain to exercise, then we eat more and we move less. So when you start to associate pleasure to what you want, you know, if you want to engage in fitness, then you don't imagine yourself on the treadmill sweaty and exhausted and late. Nobody's going to want to do that. You always focus on the outcome you want. So you would imagine that you just finished with your fitness and you're sparkly, you have more energy, you're right on time, and you feel fantastic the whole rest of the day. You're more productive, you feel more peaceful, things that used to stress you out just kind of roll right off your shoulder, and you feel great. You feel happy and strong. That's what we want. We want you to feel great by focusing on what you want. And that's how it usually works. I mean, people don't buy braces. They buy straight teeth and a dazzling smile. If all you focused on was rubber bands and tightening and headgear, nobody would have straight teeth. Nobody would wear braces. You focus on having the movie star smile and the dazzling glow and the twinkle as you go, ding, you know, or whatever it is. And that's what you want. So you start to sell the sizzle, so to speak, and you focus on how you want it to be. Now, you in the beginning might feel like you were just full of it, like you were just fooling yourself. No. What you're doing is you are programming yourself to succeed. You are creating a pattern inside of you that causes you to feel motivated and causes you to follow through automatically, unconsciously, because you're understanding how your mind works and you're using it to your advantage. That's the most practical, common sense approach there is. So before you do something, ask yourself, if I do this, am I going to feel proud of myself afterwards? And if the answer is yes, go for it. If the answer is, well, I don't know, or I've never really thought about it that way, then the answer is no, make a better choice. So those are 3 top sabotages. 1, we focus on what we're afraid of instead of the outcome that we want. 2, we use ineffective language. If I come up to you, I'm a nurse and I have a needle and I say, honey, you're not going to feel any pain. What's the one word you hear? Pain. So we got to say it the way we want it. It's not that I got to stop procrastinating. It's that I'm getting more motivated every day. Now, when I talked about people coming in and I would say, how's it going? And they would complain about all the things that weren't working for them, I learned that I had to stop asking those questions. So now I come in and the first question out of my mouth is, what's going well? What are you doing to move towards what you want? And I immediately redirect their focus onto what's going well, which causes them to talk about the things that are going well, and then they get excited about it, and then the things that they need to improve don't seem so big and scary. It seems like they can conquer that too. So make sure that you are taking action and you're feeling good about what you're doing, and you celebrate whenever you take any positive action towards your goals. We got to make the journey as fun as getting there so that you keep the results you get, so that you feel really good after you've achieved your goal, so that you keep the habits in place. The worst thing you can do is go on a diet, have a set of habits, healthy habits that go along with the diet, and as soon as the diet is over, so are the healthy habits. That's what causes relapse. So we're going to have a whole different approach that's going to create a healthier lifestyle.